Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Think with a Drink. This is the weekly webinar series brought to you by the Ares Foundation for Financial Education. And this week's show, Craig, we're trying to get into the whole, let's call it the Halloween theme. It's October, trying to get scary with everything. And this is called Scary Money. That's that, ooh, all that the
Ooh,
yes.
Okay.
Much better than me in terms of dealing with that. So we're going to talk about that in a second. Real quick, we just want to introduce ourselves. My name is Tom Alessi. I am the president of the Ares Foundation for Financial Education. I have been in financial services now for, this is my 25th year.
Wow.
I'm an investment advisor. Yeah, I know. So geez, the way he said that. That was
scary.
terrible.
Ooh,
That is scary. I've been doing this for 25 years. Those initials after my name just tell you that I'm a certified fiduciary, which just means I have to act in anyone's best interest that I am sitting down with and giving guidance or advice. I want to bring my Vice President, Craig, if you can introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Craig Richardson. I'm the Vice President of the Ares Foundation and also in charge of sound effects. And I've been doing this a little over 20 years myself. And I specialize in working with families and individuals to help them define their financial goals and have a better relationship with their money.
Next slide, please. So a little bit about the Ares Foundation. So we are a nonprofit located in Newton, Massachusetts. You can find us on the web. If that next slide comes up, it'll give it to you. It'll tell you that it's the, you can find us at www.aresfoundation.org. Mm-hmm. Ares itself, we are located in Newton, but our mission is trying to help everyone have a better relationship with their money. Because whether you realize it or not, you are in a relationship with money. And there are behaviors and triggers and things that cause us to act, well, at this time of the year, scary.
Spooky, yes.
Spooky. When it comes to our money and our finances. And that's all myself, Craig, the rest of us at the Ares Foundation try to do, is we try to take a little bit of that scariness, spookiness out of dealing with your money. Okay, so now to the fun part of this episode, which is the whole reason that we are here. This is the whole idea and concept behind Ares is trying to have a little bit of fun, make it a little bit more relaxed, a little bit casual when talking about money and finances. Mm-hmm. Because let's face it, money and finances are challenging for everybody. Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how much money you make.
That's true.
So for this week's episode, because we're staying in the theme of Halloween, or at least the theme of the fall episode, this is Sam Adams Oktoberfest. God knows, you know, my cousin from Boston there.
From Boston, yeah.
You know, Oktoberfest, these are fest beers, you know, as they say. They're Marzen, they're caramel. Think with food pairings, you want to go with, you know, the bratwurst, the sausage, pretzels, those type of things.
I'm getting hungry now.
There you go.
I haven't had dinner yet.
Get you hungry. But anyway, if you have some, sip along, skål. All right. Scary money statistics, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about, is a little bit about some of these statistics and money and some of the things that you can do, Craig, so that you don't wind up as one of those statistics, if you will.
Yeah, nobody wants to be a statistic.
Nobody, especially not when it comes to bad money or failed money or scary money statistics.
No.
All right, so first one, what do we got for us here? You know, so that says 56% of Americans can't pay a $1,000 emergency expense.
Oof.
And so when we talk about that emergency expense, we mean something has happened, you know, that was unexpected. The car broke down, the pet got sick, something along those lines that says, all right, I have to pay for this thing. If I want, you know, the dog or the cat to be
live.
healthy, so I got to do something, but I don't have the money to pay for it.
Wow.
And that's you know, more than half of the people out there. And that is a very, very scary statistic when it comes right down to it. The fact that you couldn't do this, because what do we have to do if we turn? We're not going to let the pet just go. So what are we going to do?
We have to borrow money from somebody.
Yeah, or we can use that plastic thing that's called a credit card.
Which is also borrowing money.
Yeah, we can get debt, right? And that's what usually happens. All right, so what can we do? What's the next thing? You know, what's a way to fix this? So You know, what Craig and I talk to everybody about when we go through looking at dealing with emergency reserves is to really be thinking about, all right, one, I've got to start putting money away for this.
Yep.
And really the idea and the concept here is if I'm going to be putting money away for an emergency expense, it should be in an account that is not readily accessible.
Right. Should be actual emergency money, like behind the glass, right?
Behind the glass. What's that? Break glass in case of emergency, right? So the idea is at least to start putting money away. Now, our industry will tell folks that they should have 3 to 6 months.
Typically, of living expenses put away. Yes.
So 3 to 6 months of basic living expenses. All right, the reality there, and you're going to get some more statistics when this comes up, but the reality there is that's just not feasible right now for most people.
No.
Like we said, half of them don't have $1,000 put away.
Right. So you got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere. So the idea and the concept is to at least think about putting some money every week into an account, whether that's a money market, whether that's a CD, something that you can put this away where it's not easily accessible. I can't get at it with a debit card or a check type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, the thing too is, a lot of people, a lot of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, right? So you just try and get through each week, let alone putting money away. But what I've discovered with a lot of the clients I work with is they're very good at paying their bills. They're just not necessarily good at making themselves a bill.
Right.
And saving for that emergency.
We'll talk about that in a little bit in terms of dealing with that. So the idea is to really be thinking about the fact that, all right, I need to be putting away some money that's just for emergency expenses. And we understand that gets difficult to do because other stuff is going to come up. But we know the reality is, we're on TV, so I'm not going to say it. But
Can you say the B word? We got to get those buzzers.
Blank happens, right? Stuff happens.
It's been a great
yes.
Frankenstein event.
Right. So stuff happens to us, and so we got to be prepared for that. And it literally does start with just putting money away because you get into the habit of putting money away. And that's really where the start occurs and where it happens is that you, by doing this, even little increments, $10 or $20 a paycheck, starts to build up over time. We start to feel like we're getting someplace and we're doing something.
Right. It also gives you a sense of confidence when you know you've got a little bit of money. It doesn't have to be a lot of money, but just a little bit of money put away so you can deal with these things that come up. Because nothing feels worse than having an emergency and going, now what do I do?
Now what do I do?
Right.
How do I get it? How do I deal with this? How do I get around it? What am I doing to make
That's
that
scary.
happen?
It's just,
There we go. See, it's scary. All right, what's the next one? All right. So that one came out weird. I don't know why that is. But anyway, the average credit card debt in the US household today is $89.42. So that's $8,942.
oh my God, that's 8 times as much as what they should have in their savings.
8 times as many. And why did it happen? Well, maybe there was some issue that
Nothing in the savings, right?
Yeah, they didn't have anything put away, and the car broke down, or the pet got sick, or something happened. And we had to turn to a credit card, and that's why we have credit card.
You
And
really
it
like your
doesn't-
pets.
And it doesn't say right now that literally what they're paying on that debt, because I will tell you the average credit card charge today is like 17 or 18%. The average.
Wow.
Not the top. Like there are folks out there who are paying 28, 29% on their charge.
Wow.
The days of those early and low numbers, those are gone. So just realize that that's debt, and that debt is taking away from our ability to do something else.
I think I could get better rates at the dock.
You gotta watch those guys.
Okay.
Nunzio and Rocco. You gotta watch out for them in terms of dealing with everything with that. All right. So what can we do? Right. So when we're dealing with debt, one of the things that Craig and I, and you can go to the next slide with that, because it literally just talks about handling debt and being in control of your debt. So there's sort of 3 methods out there when it comes to paying or handling or trying to reduce debt. 2 of them work, 1 of them doesn't, right? So when we look at debt as dealing with debt, the method that a lot of people use, let's say that our bar top here is, I've got 4 debts, right? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, I got 4 debts.
Okay.
And what I'm going to do is I'm paying the debts, but I'm also throwing a little bit of extra money on each one.
Okay.
Right? So I'm not really focused on any one. I'm trying to pay them down. Maybe I'm paying a little extra on this one, a little extra on that one, and so on. And what you end up with in that scenario, what we call the shotgun method, is it doesn't work. Because see, the levels never really change, and they don't really make any headway, and we end up getting frustrated and really just almost give up in the whole situation because we don't feel like we're making any ground up.
It's like Nintendo Duck Hunt when 4 ducks come up at once. You
Yeah,
can't shoot them all.
You're trying to shoot everything. There you go. It is called the shotgun method, after all, in terms of dealing with that. It doesn't work, so don't use that. Don't do it. The other two methods are the methods that are more readily ascribed to, more readily used, and the first one is called math. It's a math method. And math just says, I'm going to take whichever one, yours looks like it has the most in it, so yours would be the one that's costing me the most.
Yes.
Right, and so that one's costing me the most, so I'm going to pay that one down first. I'm going to pay the minimum on my other three, but all the extra money is going to go to getting that one down.
Okay.
Because that one's costing me the most money.
Is that a challenge?
No,
No, okay.
not right now. Don't do that. You're going to do that on me, and then I'm going to be carrying
I'm just
the rest
trying
of
to
the
keep
show
up with
by
the whole
myself
show,
with
that's
that.
all.
Yes.
Because then we go to yours, right? Which would be
Yeah.
next.
Well, so here's the problem with the math method, right? So when we deal with the math method, the issue there is that sometimes that number is the biggest one I have. It's the largest debt I have. Even though I'm throwing all the money at it, it's costing me the most. I'm not making any headway. I still have all these outstanding debts. I still feel like I'm drowning in this whole thing. So sometimes math, while a good method, and a lot of times if you look up stuff online or read stuff, that's what it's going to tell you to do.
Well, because you're making progress, but it's such slow progress that you don't see it. And when you don't see something happening, you tend to think it's not happening, and you get frustrated, then you stop, right?
So for us, what we subscribe to is what's called the momentum method. Right? And momentum says, I'm going to take the smallest, I don't care what they're charging me, the smallest debt I have, the one with the smallest number, regardless of what I'm getting charged on it, I'm going to pay the minimum on the other three, and then if this is the small one, I'm going to focus all my extra money there. Because what happens in that situation is I get this paid off, and then it's gone. And then when it's gone, now we take the second smallest one, and I push all the money there. And then that one's gone, and I'm accomplishing something. I'm building it up. Like we said, this is all about generating habits. This is all about getting in control and understanding how I'm taking control of all of that.
Yeah, just as long as you don't do what you just did and put it back.
Yes, no. You can't fill back in just because I got rid of one doesn't mean, hey, I've got an open
open
slot
another one,
now.
right.
I can take out another debt. That doesn't work. Don't do that, right? We're trying to get these debts paid down so that our average credit card cost, the $8,900 there, that's the average household out there, that's getting pared down. We're reducing that number. We're freeing up additional cash so that we can put it in the emergency reserve fund. So if the pet does get sick, I can take care of that.
Yeah, my wife would be so proud that she's a teacher. We're using manipulatives. I like it.
It's a lesson. It's learning.
It's learning.
All right. What's the next statistic?
I don't think she drinks on the job, though.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah,
yes.
that's a very good thing.
I can't see the next statistic. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Only 22%, if we could get
There
there
you
we
go.
go. Thank you. That's perfect. Only 22% of people near retirement have enough money saved. So this one,
Ooh, that's
boy,
really spooky.
So the reality here when it comes to saving for retirement is just that. We understand it's a trade-off, right? So the whole point of why people don't have enough saved is because they've either done one of two things. They didn't stick to whatever plan they had started to,
True.
right? Or they ended up contributing and not contributing, changing jobs, not getting in, or the job I went to didn't have a plan, and so on. And what happens is we have these gaps that we're not contributing.
Or number 3, you never started the plan to begin with.
Or you never started one to begin
Right.
with. And so you wind up with these conversations. A lot of times what happens in that scenario is that we're telling ourselves we have time,
Right.
even though we don't, and that we'll eventually make it up. We'll get there. Right,
I'll make it more later, so who
I'll
cares?
make it more later. I'll get there eventually.
getting a
right?
check,
So,
it's no big
you
deal.
know, in terms of dealing with all of that, so it keeps pushing things off, and we never really get started. You know, what we call the savings train never gets into the station. So what happens there is maybe I'm in my 20s and I've got some debt college debt or whatever. I'm going to get that paid off. Then I'll start contributing. But then I'm now in my late 20s and 30s. I want to save for a house.
Yeah, that's more important. I mean, to live somewhere.
I'll save for the house. Then I'll get started. But then I'm going to have a family. Now I'm going to have a baby. Got to have the baby. Then I'm going to get. The next thing you know, you're 45, 50 years old. You haven't started yet.
And those kids want to eat every single day. You know that?
That's crazy up them that
I
they
don't
want to
know.
eat
I don't
everything.
get it. I think give them a turn.
What
Right.
can you do here? What can we do to get in front of this? As far as the next slide, please.
Yeah, steps to better
So
saving.
steps to be better at saving. All right. So saving, like we talked about, and the biggest part in all of this is habits, right? Is making yourself understand the habit and going through when we're spending, how we're spending, what we're spending it on. So one of the things that we talk to everybody about, and everybody needs to be thinking about, is what I'm spending, right? And how I'm spending it and where I'm spending it. And that's something that everybody has to go through. We're going to do one in a while with another show that's all on the dreaded B word, the budget, in terms of dealing with that. But yeah, spooky too. That's another spooky one in terms of dealing with it. But some of the steps to being better with saving strategies, right? Trying to set goals. The reason that I'm putting money away, the reason I'm saving for something. If I have a goal that I am shooting for, then I have a reason that I'm doing this. The idea of retirement, that's delayed gratification. I'm not going to spend today because I'm going to spend it later on, type of thing.
Right, yeah. I mean, the thing a lot of people can't deal with is balance, right? You feel like it's either all or nothing. I got to pay my bills, and if I don't pay my bills, the world's going to end, and so I don't bother saving anything. Right. Then I see people at the other extreme who all they do is save and never spend a dime of it, right? So it's not one way or the, I mean, sometimes it's one way or the other.
Right.
Right? So the nice, happy place is to be in the middle, somewhere where you know what you can spend now, but you're also saving for that rainy day and later on.
Yes. And so one of the things that comes up with that a lot of times is this whole conversation about needs versus wants, right? And as Craig has said over and over and over again, there really isn't a difference there. The need is a want, it's the same thing, right? Because that's the problem for most people is they don't see it as a need versus a want. It's just a thing. I got to have it, so I don't care.
That's right. They're all the same. What's the difference?
There's no difference.
I need it, and I want it, and I want it, and I need it.
But there is something to that where we do talk about, when we're talking about being better at spending, right, at checking ourselves in terms of spending, is taking a look at how, the concept of, again, calling it delayed gratification, but this whole, let's call it a pause button. Right, to stupid, Amazon and everybody else, I can just push a button and stuff shows up at my house.
Yep.
There should be a pause button that goes along with it that says, I'm not going to, no, don't do this today. Come back to it tomorrow and decide if tomorrow it makes sense to me to buy this thing, because that's usually where we get into trouble.
Absolutely.
And so one of the other ways to do that, and what we subscribe to for a lot of people, is to be thinking about this and to be saying, okay, how am I handling what I'm doing, and should I maybe put this off? Like if I wanted to buy a car, all right, and maybe I was going to have to pay $250 or $300 a month for my car payment.
Right.
Instead of buying it today, what if I waited 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and I was just putting that money away, so that I'm now used to the fact that I'm going to have $300 put away to pay for this. But now I've also built up additional funding for a down payment or some other thing.
That's true. How do I get around for 6 months?
Well, hopefully we have some kind of a vehicle that will take us during that period of time.
Got a great pair of kicks or something.
See, there's the need versus the want thing right there.
Got a great pair of kicks?
Yes. Next statistic, please. All right. So this one says 44% of retirees have higher expenses than expected, and a lot of this has to do, just so we're clear, with healthcare, right? So a lot of this becomes healthcare, becomes unexpected expenses, and dealing with some of the things that crop up as we get older that we are not expecting to have. And so we think, what I did in my 40s and 50s, that's how I'm going to be in my 70s and 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done this spending plans for thousands of people, literally. And whenever we talk about retirement, they never mention the cost of medical costs.
Right.
They never, what it's going to cost for co-pays, and because people are living longer. I watched yesterday someone on the morning show lived to be 107 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Can you imagine? You're in retirement for literally 42 years?
Yeah.
It's crazy. But did they get to be that age and not have to spend any money on healthcare? I mean, that's the caveat. That's the back and forth, right?
Right. So it just to be aware of what you're spending. So, next one when it comes up in terms of, some of the things you can do in terms of that, like ways to handle. So this, again, it comes down to the same concept that we're talking about, like emergency reserves, except for now my bucket needs to be for health care, for medical expenses. For those who are young enough and are participating in what is known as a health savings account, if your employer has made a health savings plan available to you, this is a home run for that, right? Because this becomes a pre-tax contribution that grows tax deferred, and it's taken out tax-free when used for medical expenses, and you don't have to use it this year. You can leave it, let it grow, and then use it when you're in retirement when you think you're going to have all these other extra expenses, and it's tax-free at that point.
Yeah, it's like the holy grail of savings, right?
This is one of the only real tax-free buckets that you can create. And so that's a way to deal with this. Oh, I've got these unexpected expenses, these additional, Medicare surcharges or premium upgrades or whatever the case may be. All, like you said, those co-pays. That's when you can use this for. So that's a way to handle that. If you don't have access to it, then you need to sort of create that bucket on your own.
Yeah, the spooky one I always hear about from people when they get older is teeth. Dental.
Oh, yeah, dental. Yeah, dental's a big one.
Extremely
Right.
expensive, and it's spooky not having teeth.
Yes.
Can't chew leather anymore.
Next one.
Some of these jokes are just for me.
51% of American adults have delayed an important life decision because of money. Thank you. I finally got the slide. I appreciate that. So listen, this really comes down to the idea of, well, gee, we wanted to do this thing, but you know what? We got ourselves into debt, or we got ourselves into a little bit of trouble, so we can't do this thing. So we got to hold off whatever it is, buying the house, upgrading the car, doing whatever it is, because we don't have the money set aside.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's an issue of, needs versus wants. Sometimes you want to upgrade, want to get out of the apartment and move to the house. That's a want, right? But you may not be in a financial position to do that yet, and so you've got to plan for that. Or you may say, I'm going to start having children, and you want to plan for that.
Right.
Well, children, believe it or not, they actually cost money. Like I said earlier, they want to eat every day. It's crazy. I don't get it. But anyway, so sometimes you delay those types of things.
Right. So what can you do in terms of trying to solve this or be ahead of it in terms of it? So the next slide. It's finding your why. So when we talk about finding your why, we're talking about when it comes to money. So one of the things that happens with money a lot is that we spend and we don't really think about why we spent, right? And so some of this is to try to figure out not only why I'm saving, but why I'm spending. Because in there is that whole connection that says, all right, I understand now, I bought this thing, I didn't really, that's buyer's remorse, right? I don't know that I really, really needed it, but God, when I wanted to buy it, that's when it felt really, really good getting it.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that to understand what that kick up that you're getting, the endorphin rush that comes from my purchasing something, the feel good vibe that happens. You got to look yourself in the mirror and say, wait a minute, did I really, really need to buy that thing today?
Yes.
Okay. Again, Craig is always going to say yes. He's going to hit the
Yes.
button. It's going to be Christmas on his doorstep every single day with Amazon.
Because gosh darn it, I'm good enough.
But you really need to be understanding that part of it. And then the same thing goes for saving, right? Why am I saving this? Is it because everybody's telling you to save? Or is it the fact that you're understanding this is something that I want to do or something that I know I should be doing?
Right, and sometimes, is like Tom said, a little bit of delayed gratification is you work really hard, you get your expenses under control, you've got the emergency reserve put away, you got a handle on your spending, and so you spend the money on those extras because now you've earned the right to do that.
Right.
Right? You're living within your means, everything is under control, and now when you go to spend it, it feels that much better because there's no angst with it, there's no stress with it. You feel better about it.
Next slide. The key takeaways. Thank you. Sometimes I can't see that. I appreciate that. So, the key takeaways from this one is really about understanding money. And really, we say this, that money is scary, but for a lot of people, the idea and the concept of looking at their finances, of really sitting down and saying, this is what I spend, this is what I do, this is what I know, that's a very scary thing. And so trying to come at this from an idea of, wait a minute, I'm okay, I can understand this, I can take control of this, that's one of the things you can do. Don't let debt overwhelm you, because debt is one of those things that add on to that feeling.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'd rather go to a haunted house.
That feeling of unknown, that feeling of inability to take action, that all happens there. And then the last one really is about finding your why and what makes sense for you, what causes you to do what it is you want to do. Next slide. So just so you know, for anybody who's watching, hit the pause on the remote or whatever, that QR code on the screen, that opens up to us, that you can get in touch with us. Certainly reach out. We're here to have conversations with everybody. Like I said, this is what Aries is all about, trying to help everyone have a little better relationship with their money. And it doesn't matter where your situation, doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter how much you make. We are here to try to help you understand all of that, so that if we can get that QR code again in the pullback shot there, so everybody can see it. And really, one of the things that we say to everybody is that, okay, you may already have a plan in place, but that plan, whoever set it up with you or whoever did it, he really can't give you a second opinion on that plan. So this is just having somebody else be able to give you a little bit of, hey, you know what, you are doing the right thing, you're on the right track. That's good for you.
Absolutely. And never do your finances in the dark by candlelight.
Yes.
Right?
Like
Just
Aaron
too
Rodgers.
scary. Ooh.
All right, last slide. All right, so this is how you can again, pull back. Thank you. So, if you ever have questions, you can always reach out to us. Again, the website is ariesfoundation.org. The email address is info@ariesfoundation.org. We are always posting on other sites. We're posting on social media, so follow us on whatever it is, Facebook, like us on LinkedIn or Instagram. We've got a YouTube channel, so you can check us out. You watch us here on New TV, or you can see us on our YouTube channel to check out the show, see what it is we do.
We even have a podcast now.
And we have a podcast. Thank you. That's not on there. I should have put that on.
So you don't have to look at us. You can just listen to us.
You can just listen to us, which is probably better in terms of dealing with everything. But you have the ability to see all that and go through all of that. And on that note, we are going to say, listen, everybody, take care. Have a very happy and safe Halloween season. Skål.